Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Bypass the Apple upcharge. You can click on the link right here in the description. You won't pay that upcharge. You get access to 10 different channels. End stage shows, we call it the place for the most heat information, conversation, consternation, celebration, repudiation, whatever it is you want about the National Basketball Association. I almost pulled that off. Check it out. It's Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. Also, check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Includes Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down $5. You get $50 to play right away. Prize Picks is legal again in the state of Florida. You can play the flex plays. You can play up to 6 players together. You can play NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, college football, golf, tennis. It's all there, even esports. Go to prizepicks.com and use the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds, down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on the 5 Reasons Sports. We got Eternal Bast. You can follow him at Eternal Bast. You can also follow him as one of the hosts on our playback channel. Check it out. That's our playback room, playback.tv/5RSN. We'll be watching the Heat Bulls game tonight, as well as other games throughout the playoffs. Also, as I mentioned, Off the Floor. Eternal's on there quite a bit as well. All right, we've done a couple of podcasts leading up to the Heat and the Bulls. Check out the one that I did with Alex, also one I did with Brady. Brady and I kind of broke down more from a tactical adjustments, or he did, in terms of what needs to go different from the first 2 games against the Bulls, first 3 games against the Bulls this year, and then this one. The Bulls have pretty much run all over the Heat during those games. They like to play fast, and the Heat, as we know, like to play slow. So we'll see how things play out tonight. But Eternal and I are going to get into more of a narrative pod, I guess. I guess that's where we're trending here. But the 5 players or people, it can be anybody in the Heat organization, who have the most on the line tonight in Chicago. So I will let you, so we're not going to do this from 1 down to 5. We're going to do this down from 5 down to 1. I'll let you pick one here as your number 5. Give me someone who for you would be in the top 5 in terms of people on the spot, people under pressure tonight.
I'm going to go young guys as 5, right? Like, I think Nico, Khalil, and for those that don't know, Nico has been upgraded to questionable for tonight. So we think he may play. It's not a foregone conclusion that he will play, but I would say he, Khalil, and I guess maybe Pella or Jaime, if they do indeed play tonight, as far as available to play or get into the game. So I would say the young guys. Because there is going to be some strategizing, projecting for next season and on and so forth, as far as what the Heat may do as far as transactions related during this offseason. So I think the young guys could have a say as far as like, hey, I can be a part of whatever you're going to build going forward, especially for Nico, who is due for a contract extension.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see. Well, there's two different things we need to look at here. One is on the Jovic front, how confident is Spoelstra putting him out there after an extended absence, and whose minutes does he take? And that's one of the things I'm not quite sure of, because Brady and I talked about Spoelstra making these changes for play-ins or playoffs in terms of starting lineups Remember, we did it way back with Mike Miller in the finals in 2013. He did it with Dragic in the bubble, where they'll just be somebody who was not a starter who he plugs in to kind of get some juice. I could see Davion Mitchell starting tonight over Burks, and then Jovic coming off the bench to kind of handle that playmaking role. I could see that as a possibility, but I also could see Jovic not playing, because if he sticks with the lineup that he has now and he gets Kyle Anderson some minutes because he just trusts him from what he's done the past couple of weeks, we might not even see Nick go. I'm curious about, and then Larson also, I don't expect a big role for him just based on who's available. The Ware thing is interesting to me, Eternal, tonight, because he didn't have a real strong game against Chicago the last time. And some of this is for next year, but the Heat are going to worry about winning one game right now because they want to make the playoffs. So they're going to worry about winning one game. I was actually playing Ware under on Prize Picks tonight because I just don't think Spo is going to give him the usual dose of minutes. Do you think that's possible?
I think whatever happens in the first 6 minutes of the game is going to kind of tell you how he feels. If Ware comes out and has a very strong first stint, then he'll get the link to the chain, right? Like, okay, let's see what you do in the second stint, and it'll go on from there. And I think that's kind of where he will probably be with Khalil tonight is, can you link good play together? Because I do think is either one of the first two stints. If he struggles the first stint, the second stint is going to be his last chance, basically. Outside of just, coming out in the third quarter, he may start for a couple of minutes and then go back to the bench.
See, I think that's a possibility too with the guard rotation. I was telling Brady that on the last pod that I can see Burke starting the game, but if it doesn't work out because Giddey gets off or White, then I can see Davion Mitchell being put in as a starter to start the second half, or even Haywood. He's done that before, so it's. In a game like this, he will make changes like that. My biggest thing is he's got to play. Well, I know we're going to talk about these two guys later on here, because they're going to be higher on this list. But he's got to play his core guys heavy minutes. Like out of this game, 34 to 36 minutes for his top couple players would not make a lot of sense. All right, so I'm trying to be judicious here because I don't want to take away all of your options. So I will just say at number 4, I'm going to say Andrew Wiggins. I'm going to say Wiggins because what we've seen since Miami has gotten him, you can make an argument for him as part of the Heat's long-term future either way.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so you can say, okay, there's been the scoring games. We've seen those flourishes. Some pockets where he's played good defense, although not to the level that I was expecting based on his metrics and the way he played with Golden State. So it feels like he's an off-season in the system. But there's been some really good things, and then there's been a lot of absences. There's been places where it's not really clear how he fits with Tyler and Bam. I think this is a guy who has finals experience, who honestly, he was like one of the most important players in the finals he played in with what he did against Tatum, and he provided some of his own scoring. So he's been in these kind of moments. And I want to see him have a breakthrough here to a certain degree. And can he have a 24-point, 5-rebound game with strong defense? Like, can he have that kind of game in this kind of situation? That's why I would put him there. I can't put him higher than that. But to me, he feels like a neutral contract for the Heat going forward. Like, you could, again, make the argument either way. If he can have big moments, even when he's not a featured player and he finds a way to get his points and he finds a way to defend, then I think they'll be more likely to lean into him in the future.
I agree. I think I probably wouldn't have had him 4th. I probably would have had him a little bit higher up, but I can understand why you had him 4th with some of the other people that you're probably going to mention. But it has not – he has shown some flashes, but it has not been even what we expected. Like, I thought we were going to see more of that lockdown defender from him, but you've seen way more of that from Davion than you did from Andrew. And so, hopefully he's healthy enough to, kind of show some parts of in the one game, which isn't fair to be very, very clear to everybody listening, it isn't fair to the players tonight, but it is what it is. It's what the NBA designed, and Miami, as a 10th seed, put themselves in this position. So you only have one shot.
That's it. Well, that's all they should have. To be honest, I don't even know that they should have any shot at all, because I think when you look at the way the play-in played out this year, I think you could have made an argument for just taking the top 8. I mean, the thing I don't like about the West play-in, and we're seeing it tonight with Dallas playing Sacramento, is, I mean, why even have a play-in when, the 8th seed and 9th seed are separated by more than 5 games? To me, that's that doesn't make a ton of sense. But I understand, look, they're creating more money. They're creating supposedly more interest. I'm not necessarily sure that it's had the impact as far as making the end of their season meaningful to teams, but that's a whole nother matter. All right, let's get to number 3 here. Give me number 3, and then we'll go to the break.
My number 3 would probably be Tyler.
Really?
Yes.
Because that's my number 1, so let's just discuss it. Why? I would assume for you it would be more. You've been a little bit more of a skeptic than I've been on Tyler this year, I would say. So what? Why just number 3? To me, he's the easy number 1. He's the one everybody's gonna be pointing to after this game.
Yeah, I don't think it's him. I think really in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to spoil who my number 1 is.
I see where you're going with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it's Tyler though. I think really, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think tonight will matter much in whatever decision they make going forward with Tyler. I'm just being completely honest. Whether they decide
No, I agree. I agree with that.
To extend him, because I think Tyler has shown you like the best and worst cases of Tyler this season. So I feel like the season overall, because he had played 76 games, right? The season overall basically shows you what you're going to get out of Tyler. You know what I'm saying? And I think it gives them the opportunity to really make a fair decision. Now, in years past, like the last 2 seasons when everybody wanted him traded, as far as the fans go, I can see from a management position how difficult that is, because they miss time and then getting hurt in the playoffs. So you don't really get the opportunity to judge fairly. But I think with this opportunity, he played majority of the season. And like I said, you got to see the high points of Tyler, you got to see the low points of Tyler, almost on an even scale. So I think tonight, as far as him being 3rd, I think it's just, you've seen at times the Bulls bother Tyler in the way that they play defense. But also too is just how he adjusts their defense, but also his decision making. And so that's why I would say he's 3rd. Because this is not the 2 previous play-ins. This is literally, you do not win, that's the end of your season. And so
right.
you don't get another chance. And so it's going to, his decision making and turnovers and everything like that is going to be under such a very large microscope, but not the largest one.
Okay. Before we go to break on this, to me, that's why I think he's number 1. I don't think it's as much transactional as it is reputational.
Well, aren't they kind of linked together though, with him particularly?
No, well, they are, but I don't think that they're going to make a move based on what the fans want. I mean, to me, the decision on Tyler ultimately is going to come down to, are the Heat willing to max him out? And if he wants the max this offseason, which is another question, but are they willing to max him out and basically give $100 million to him and Bam if the 2 of them can't lead you to championship and you still need that other guy that you got to pay? Or can you offer him a bit less than the max, but something that's fair, and bring him in for, say, 3 years, $110 million? Because if it's something along those lines, then Tyler gets a raise, and the Heat have, a very competent, probably second scorer on, a contending level team. And it still leaves you a little bit of money to play around with when the time comes for getting that guy. So that's where I'm at with it. So I don't think that I don't think that what happens in this game is going to change. Okay, the Heat want to keep him or not keep him. But I think from the fans' perspective, he's the lightning rod because this is his team now from an offensive standpoint. And I know Bam is doing some great things, but obviously even Dwayne spoke to this. You're on mute. You're on mute if you're.
I'm just not saying. I'm not saying it on mic, but that was.
Yeah, I'm just saying. What did Dwayne say?
He said.
What did he say? Dwayne said that Bam has become the leader, and he just threw out there that Tyler's their best player. I don't
probably going to probably.
Bam but I think I'm talking about as an offensive player.
No, okay. To be fair to Wade said Tyler is probably going to end up being the best player for the Miami Heat, which, all respect to the greatest player in franchise history.
Yes,
that's insane. That is insane. Not even.
But he played the same position. I mean, I'm just saying he threw that out there, not me. But I don't even know where I was with this. My overall point is Tyler is going to be the lightning rod tonight.
Yes, we agree on that. Yeah,
he just is. All right, so we're talking about something else that this is not as controversial. Water cleanup of Florida. You can find them at WCUFL.com. If you are worried about leaks in your home, your place of business, get the preventative maintenance. If you already have a leak, they can do the leak detection for you. They can do the damage assessment. They'll work with your insurance company. Based in Boca Raton, Water Cleanup of Florida services the entire Tri-County area. They even go out to Fort Myers. They're down in the Keys. They're everywhere. And if they can't do the job, they'll let you know. So honest contractors, hard to find. And Water Cleanup of Florida has more than 200 5-star reviews on Google. So check it out. It's Water Cleanup of Florida, WCUFL.com. If you've got the schmutz,
they got good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I said it.
Oh, no guts. If you got the schmutz,
I
you got
said
the
it.
Right.
You hear it. I was off mute.
You're on mute. You snooze, you lose. All right. Number 2. Whose turn is it, by the way? Oh, it's mine. Wait, so you went with Tyler?
I already gave who I gave away to you who my first is.
But the problem is we did this all wrong because the problem is my second is likely your first, so I just have to kind of throw it out.
So you gonna have to pick another second. It started with me and it ends with me. So my first, you already know who that is.
All right, let's just throw out who we had left on this list, each of us, because I have Tyler 1. I've already made that clear, right? So the other 2 that I was considering in this particular spot, all right, are Bam and Spo.
We agree.
Okay. We just had different orders on this.
Yeah.
Let's get to the Spo conversation before the Bam conversation, actually. This has not been his best season. We acknowledge this, both of us. I have it at work.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first time I went back through it, first time in the last 10 years that their win-loss record did not exceed, based on where they stood in the standings, their win-loss record did not exceed their net rating. It's the first time in 10 years, okay? So what that indicates to you is that, unlike past years, where Spoelstra squeezed more out of a team than he should have, that suggests that he actually this year squeezed less.
I'm glad you said that because I like the way you framed that, because I will say that this team, and you can name this podcast, squeezed and under squeezed, because this season was definitely under squeezed. There was a lot more juice they could have got out of this team. And the reason why Spo is my second, before going back to you, Ethan, is because the amount of losses that they had with leads, with double-digit leads, right? Like, you could look at a team and be like, "Oh my God, they was terrible," right? And the way they played during the season reflects just how terrible they are. Like, they were down double digits on multiple times. But for the Heat this season, you blew almost 20 games where you had double-digit leads, and we're not talking about just 10-point leads. You had 15 points, 17 points, 20 points. You don't blow that many games with those type of leads, because it shows just how not on the margins, not how attention to detail that you have been all season. And you and I, we talked about that early in the season, which is why a certain person is my number one for as far as what they had to prove, because we did a podcast early in the season, for those that remember, about how they weren't, like, they were fucking up. Excuse my language. They were fucking up bad when it came to details. And it ended up showing across the season, as we saw.
Well, I think when you mentioned about attention to detail, I mean, that ultimately it does come down to coaching in some ways. I think where Eric deserves higher marks this year are just keeping the thing together while the Jimmy stuff was going on, because Spo was more directly impacted by that situation than anybody else. And then anybody in the front office, Spo had to deal with this day to day, figure out who he was going to play instead of Jimmy, whether Jimmy was going to be there, how he was going to explain it to the team, how he was going to handle Jimmy if he was around. Like, he had to deal with all that stuff. So I give him a certain amount of grace in terms of the challenges of this season in that regard. But then the on the court stuff, like the blowing the timeout in Detroit that he didn't have, you mentioned all the blown leads against some of them against very disadvantaged undermanned teams too. And a lot of them late in the fourth quarter, and just an inability to get control of the situation. And then they finally did, and they had the 6-game winning streak. And we'll see if it's sustained, but it was kind of like a mini 11-30 to 30-11 situation. And it wasn't his best work. I mean, we just have to acknowledge that. So I do think he's on the spot, not because he's getting fired or anything like that, but because honestly, his teams have knocked Billy Donovan's out the past 2 years, and the Heat's personnel, at least what they're putting on the court in this game, is probably better than what they had in the last play-in game, because Jimmy didn't play in that game. So the Heat actually have, I think, more available good players tonight than they had then. So I think even in Chicago, which is not the most rabid atmosphere, these days, I would, I don't know. He should be able to figure out a way to pull this one out. All right. I want to go. Your number one is Bam. I was going to be my number two, right? That's where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to break again, or are we just going straight into it?
No, we're just going to go straight to it.
All right, cool.
So why is he first for you?
This has been the pivotal season for Bam as a leader. I mean, you can't pick a better scenario for, like, just out of the frying pan into the fire for your leader in developing your leadership skills. I mean, Bam, as a young 26-year-old, I think he turns 27. I don't think he's turned 27 just yet. I may be wrong on that, but like, that is a very monumental position to be put in, from the start of the season to now, of all the things that Miami has gone through. It's just, you see what happened with Jimmy. You see how he started off personally, was struggling with his offense and everything like that. He wasn't as sharp on defense either. But, him turning around, him getting 3-point shot going, him having a bunch of 20-10 games, him getting back to where he was defensively, while also constantly, as we saw the season progress, constantly calling guys into a huddle to try to get them on the same page. I think that as far as tonight goes, it's just kind of like the exclamation point on it. They can still lose a game, right? Like, what matters is how they go about losing that game. Like, if they fight hard all the way through and it's just Chicago just came out on top, you can live with that. That's why I feel like, even with everything that we listed, I wouldn't be upset with them if they gave it their all, and it looks like they gave it their all, and they still lose. I mean, case in point, look at the Grizzlies last night. Like, some of that was just outside of their control, and some of that was inside of their control, right? But if you fight tooth and nail to the end after a 20-point loss, after 20-point, deficit, and you get right there at the end, like, if that goes a route for Miami, not the 20-point deficit or whatever, but just fighting tooth and nail all the way down to the end, then I think you, as the coaches and players, can sit there and be like, hey, considering the season that we just had, but as fans, obviously, they're going to be excited about the lottery. But just organization-wise, I think Yeah, just fight tooth and nail, man. Obviously, they want to win, but
Well, I actually think that's what's going to happen. I think we're looking at a close game. They lose, I think it's going to come down to the things we've talked about the whole year and the decision making down the stretch, and that's kind of why I said Herro was first, because I feel like he's going to be in more of a decision making capacity late in the game. I mean, as far as Bam goes, I think he proved something by kind of getting out of that rut that he had the first 2 months. I do think having that rut will inform conversation about him this offseason, because he can't have that next year. And that really, I don't know what it was coming out of the Olympics. I have no idea what it was, but he just was not impactful. And then there was also the Jimmy stuff that was going on behind the scenes. You mentioned Bam having to deal with that, which he should come out of that stronger. But my thing on him is, I think most people have kind of already come to their conclusions on him. I feel like the majority of Heat fans either view him as, can do no wrong, all this, or somebody who has a ceiling and essentially is, an exceptional role player in their view, but not a leading man. If he was to come out tonight and have 32 and 13, then yeah, I think that obviously it would change some conversations about him. I don't expect him to do that, though. I expect him to have a solid game where we're probably frustrated that Spoelstra doesn't play him enough minutes. And I expect them to forget him have like 17 points at one point, and then the Heat to get away from him for the next 20 possessions. Like, that's what I expect. That's what I'm conditioned to. So I don't know that it'll all be on him. Whereas I feel like with Tyler, it's going to be a perception ball in his hands that it's going to be on him.
So here's my thing. I'm glad you said something very thought-provoking. I think for anybody out there, just as on a human being, you can't ask for a better opportunity to show your guts, right? You think about the season, how it started. You were right, Ethan. Legit 2 months, Bam was not looking like how we thought he should look after an Olympic run, right? But you look at the resilience that he showed to bounce back from that. It wasn't like it was spurts. Bam had a long stretch of just not playing up to the level that we had grown accustomed to. But he bounced back, and he bounced back in a way that showed such resilience. And I think tonight can be that exclamation point on him. I do expect Bam to have a very strong game. I don't know 32 and 13, but I do expect him to have more than 25 points and probably more than 12 rebounds. I think tonight will be a strong game for Bam, just because we've also seen too, Ethan, during the season, not all the time, but we've seen him be more aggressive about give me the fucking ball.
Right.
You specifically saw that in one game when he looked at the sideline after a couple of possessions when they went away from him on court. I don't know if that was like a design thing, but they went away from him on court, and he looked at the sideline and said, "Get the ball."
Well, and he needs to do that more often. And I think that this is one of those games where, again, you're not playing a great team, even though you've lost this team 3 times. We can't act like the stakes of this or anything close to the stakes of games that Bam has played in over the course of his Heat career.
He played well. He had a finals where he played like the best player on the team.
And so this is a situation where, you want to be able to lean on your guys who've been through some of this. I'm with you how important he is. I just think ultimately, if they lose this game, the finger pointing, at least to the players, is going to go towards Tyler more, because the ball will be in his hands to make decisions at the end. But we'll see. And ideally, Tyler makes good decisions at the end of the game. At least ideally, if you want them to win this game, which I know some fans don't. And then, then we see what happens against Atlanta and with him matching up against Trey. But we've got to get there first. So anyway, game tonight. Make sure you check out the preview that I did with Brady as well. Also, Alex and I went through the draft pick situation. It's official now. The Heat will get Golden State's pick, but it will be anywhere between 18th and 20th, and that depends on a couple of different factors. So they are going to end up with the top 20 pick in the draft. If they lose tonight, they'll have 2 top 20 picks in the draft. All right, thanks to Eternal. Thanks to our sponsors, PricePicks.com. Use the code 5FIVE and Water Cleanup Florida, WCUFL.com.